Hello and welcome to another standard video. Today we're checking out this black, red and green or Junt colored graveyard combo deck built around Fear of Infinity, a card that we're not actually planning to cast in this deck. Instead we're just interested in its eerie ability. Whenever an enchantment we control enters, we can return it from our graveyard to our hand, which is pretty useful when combined with Insidious Roots, which says when a creature leaves our graveyard, we get to make an 0/1 plant token while putting a +1/+1 counter on each plant we control, and creature tokens we control can also tap to add 1 mana of any color. So Insidious Roots is the only win condition in this deck, and the plan is to just make tons and tons of plant tokens while growing them, and hopefully attack the opponent in one fell swoop, maybe by giving the team haste with a Bitter Union, which is also a great way to discard our Fear of Infinity. As it enters, we can discard a card and draw 2, and then Artist's Talent is kind of the third combo piece we need alongside Insidious Roots and Fear of Infinity as a very reliable discard outlet that lets us discard the Fear of Infinity whenever we cast a non-creature spell, and then we can draw a card as well. So to help assemble all these combo pieces, we do need some other ways to maybe fill the graveyard or draw cards. So at 1 mana, there's 2 copies of Seed of Hope to mill 2, and maybe find a permanent to put in hand and gain 2 life, so that can hopefully mill a Fear of Infinity while finding Insidious Roots and Artist's Talent. At 2 mana, of course, we have the Bitter Union and Artist's Talent to just draw and discard a whole bunch, so that can also help find the missing pieces. And then we also have 2 copies of a Dredger's Insight. At first I did have the full playset. There is a drawback, since when it enters we mill 4 cards, we can put an artifact, creature or land from among them into our hand. What it does not get back is enchantments, so if we mill Insidious Roots or Artist's Talent, we won't be able to return it, but it is still a great way to maybe mill a Fear of Infinity or get them back with the Eerie trigger. And whenever a Fear of Infinity leaves our graveyard with the Dredger's Insight in play, we also gain 1 life, so that can also be a nice source of life gain against the more aggressive decks in the format. And then a Nowhere to Run has lots of uses in this deck as a removal spell that also ignores Ward and Hexproof going forward. It's an enchantment that will trigger Eerie and will stay in play, where we can maybe sacrifice it to our various bargain cards. At 1 mana, the full set of Torch the Tower, which can deal 2 to a creature, exiling it in the process. With Bargain we get to deal 3 damage and scry 1 as well. And then we also have the full set of Rowan's Grim Search as another card with a bargain mechanic, so we'll often want to sacrifice a Nowhere to Run, maybe a Bitter Reunion that's already discarded and drawn cards, even a Dredger's Insight we don't mind sacrificing, and occasionally maybe a plant token from Insidious Roots, and that way the Grim Search can now look at the top 4 cards, putting 2 in hand and the rest in the graveyard at the cost of 2 life. So that can also be a way of filling the graveyard with additional copies of Fear of Infinity, while still keeping the key combo pieces like Artist's Talent and Insidious Roots in hand. And then we also have 2 copies of Deadweight as another cheap removal spell that's also an enchantment to trigger Eerie. And then a Soul Guide Lantern isn't here to enable our own synergies, but is here to stop opposing graveyard combo decks. When it enters, we get to exile 1 card from the opponent's graveyard, can always tap and sacrifice it to exile their entire graveyard afterwards, or pay 1 mana, tap and sacrifice to draw a card. So in matchups where we don't need to exile the graveyard, we can still just cycle it, and it's still an artifact we can maybe sacrifice to bargain, and it's a cheap way to trigger Artist's Talent. Can maybe even play it for free if we leveled it up first. And then our mana base has plenty of the Surveil lands, since those are also useful in filling the graveyard and maybe looking for the key combo pieces. So the full set of Theater, the full set of Districts, and 2 Mortuaries. And those are also great at enabling the Verge lands, and we've got all 12 of those. So that's also a good combination to have, as opposed to maybe playing the fast lands, which then won't enable the Verge lands afterwards. And then 2 Mountains, since the core of the deck is red, since we need Torch the Tower early, and then the various red enchantments. But of course we also need black and green for Insidious Roots, although that's usually a card we're going to cast a little bit later in the game, once we've already filled the graveyard with our Fear of Infinity. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Alright, we're on the play. We are missing most of our combo pieces here. I can make green with the Wastewood Verge to Seed of Hope. But yeah, this is not ideal. Against aggro it could be okay, since we get to Nowhere to Run, sack it to the Grim Search. So maybe it's still worth a try. Turn 1 Duress, so I'll just Seed of Hope now then. Did mill or Fear. Get Mountain. Probably lose the Grim Search. opponent still takes a removal spell, so I can keep it available here in case I play a Deep Cavern Bat. Although, knowing about nowhere to run, they're probably gonna go with something else. So opponent passes. And I would like to keep the Grim Search available, even if it's without bargain. Alright, opponent now plays the bat, so they did manage to throw us off curve. But that's alright. Get our Fear of Infinity back. So we need Insidious Roots and Artist's Talent. For now, get another green source online. It's gonna be Obliterator. Don't have the best answer to it. Okay. Bargain, nowhere to run. And we found our talent ×2. Could also keep Deadweight and then maybe find another nowhere to run to get rid of the Obliterator. I think we're better off just trying to set up our own combo. So cast a talent. Cast another one. Discard Fear. Found the Insidious Roots. Alright, so next turn we can start going off. And a Seed of Hope, another cheap way to trigger the talent, is fine. Tiny Bones is okay. So step 1 Insidious Roots, discard Fear of Infinity, and a land. Find another Grim Search, trigger Roots. Can maybe start with Seed of Hope. Discard Fear. Find another Roots. Alright, so we're kind of doing it here. And grab another talent. And then cast a Roots. Return to Fear, and get some triggers. And we're starting to build up a board. The rest can take my talent. And we'll just take 5. Alright, so step 1 could be to level up the talents. And then cast Grim Search with Bargain, sacking a token. Trigger the talents. Find another Roots. Find another Fear. And grab some enchantments. Okay, so then now we can cast Nowhere to Run on Tiny Bones, discarding Fear. Might have been worth it to play another Roots first as well. Now I guess we're going for Nowhere to Run plus Deadweight on Obliterator instead. But yeah, Bitter Reunion can also give our plant tokens haste. which will generate even more mana for us, so we can keep going off. So cast a Reunion, or maybe now go for Insidious Roots, and then I can still Reunion, give haste. So I might be able to just end the game here. Cast Reunion. Discard Double Fear. Yeah, this is kind of the dream setup. Opponent's gonna try and anoint the token, can still flow the mana. And then Bitter Union enters, discard Double Fear, trigger triple Insidious Roots, and then just giving the team haste with a Bitter Union should be game over. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. Our hand is missing pretty much all the combo pieces, but we've got a decent way to find them. Plus, Lantern can sometimes be quite useful if we're up against a graveyard combo deck. If not, can always sack it to a Grim Search as well. And I'll keep the roots, so then we just need Fear of Infinity in graveyard. And ideally an Artist's Talent. Opponent fetched Island. Could cast the roots, but it's not doing much at the moment, so I think Bitter Union makes more sense. Maybe discarding the Seed of Hope on the off chance that our opponent is still on Omniscience combo. Found the talent. So now we're just missing the Fear. Chart, of course, so yeah, looks like the Omniscience deck. And they discarded it, perfect. So this Soul Guide Lantern is going to be exquisite. Cast Artist's Talent, and then I can still cast Lantern. I'm not going to need Nowhere to Run, even though it's still an enchantment to trigger some of our cards. Exile your Omniscience, so we don't need to worry about that one. Plus I can always sacrifice the Lantern to exile their graveyard once again. Now a card like Temporary Lockdown is still going to be annoying, and our opponent also has Blast Zone, which can either go after Lantern or some of our 2-drops. For now, Archaeologist. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting game still. For now, yeah, if I level up talents, I cannot do anything, so it's going to be Grim Search, and can sack the Reunion and play a tap land. Don't need Torture Tower. Moment of Truth is fine. Alright, let's Grim Search, sacking Reunion. Even though it does still have some uses. And still nothing, but I'll take the Reunion and another Lantern. Alright, so we can level up talents, cast a 1-mana Reunion, and maybe discard an untapped land so I still get to Surveil. Although now I might just discard the tap land. So we are cycling through the deck at rapid pace. Find an Insight. Still no Fear of Infinity, so pass. Our opponent still needs to jump through some hoops. Destroy the Lantern, discard Omniscience, get it back, or hardcast Omniscience. And then I'm still terrified of a temporary lockdown. Archaeologists attacking just so they can draw off Charter Course. That's funny, since they don't want to discard anymore. And another Charter Course, draw 2. Alright, take my turn. Opponent's going to discard to hand size anyway. Ditching the dispersals. So, any chance we can combo from here? We still need to find our Fear of Infinity. So I guess a Grim Search is our best bet. Although I can talent first. I guess Inside at this point is also decent, just to mill more cards. Although second Insidious Roots could still be helpful. But yeah, I'll cast Insight. And then still want to hang on to a Lantern just in case. Don't need dead weight. Still nothing. So I can Grim Surge, sacking the Insight since I don't need it for life gain. Still nothing. Alright. So I'll grab the roots, and I mean at this point we don't have a ton of cards left. So another Dredger's Insight might still be the pick, just because it's mills a lot of cards at once. So it might be better than just another Artist's Talent. Sure. And then I could still cast the Insights, even though we're not going to do much afterwards. Alright, there we go, at long last. Trigger Fear. Mill more cards. Still no second Fear. 14 cards remain. Alright, so I'm getting a little nervous here. So I guess we'll still Surveil. Keep the roots. If they lock down now, my whole plan also falls apart. Opponent does nothing, so they might have a counterspell in hand. Alright, cast Roots. Discard Fear. They might be planning to level a Blast Zone and then blow up all my 2-drops, so I kind of have to win right now. Which is a tall order. Alright, now they're gonna riddle, so Blast Zone can still level up as a problem. Find another root. So we found all 4 roots before a second Fear of Infinity. So if I cast Roots, discard Fear, I mean at least we're left with a board presence. And I suppose I can still sack Reunion to give the plants haste to keep making more plants. But yeah, I can only draw so many more cards. So we are kind of going off. Sack Reunion. And then cast another Roots. Discarding Double Fear. Find another talent. And wow, our opponent scoops it up. So we somehow managed to combo off on the very last opportunity. But yeah, I'm pretty sure we have lethal here, with Roots getting back double Fear of Infinity. Can still cast an extra talent, and then we're not forced to draw with Artist's Talent, so we can just stop with 0 cards in library, activate Bitter Union, and attack for the win. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. Our hand's missing our combo pieces, but with double Grim Search we can try, as we'll get to see a lot of cards. Opponent on the Pixie deck. Found the Roots. So now just need our Fear of Infinity. Seed of Hope I can maybe squeeze in alongside a Bitter Triumph for Nowhere to Run on turn 3. Sure. Now a talent. So I should probably Nowhere to Run the Scavenger before it gets too large. And then Nightmare could eventually turn into an advantage if we draw the Fear. For now, maybe one Grim Search can go. Or I could ditch the Reunion. I'll go with the Grim Search, I think. Since the life loss also matters. Probably have to do this now in case they present more enchantments at instant speed. Is this a Kaito? Looks like it. Nope, just a hit for 1. Alright, so they might have some removal in hand. So we could take this turn off to cast a Grim Search, sacking Nowhere to Run. That'll dig the deepest. So we can maybe enable the Roots soon. Opponent just sacking the Nightmare, that's acceptable. Also don't want to play Roots when our opponent can bounce it with this down in big enough, if we can make any immediate progress. Opponent did keep 2 on top, however. No blocks. And now they might have found Kaito. At least they lose the 1/1 token. But yeah, Kaito is pressure and card advantage.
Information is its own weapon.
And they found another Scavenger as well. So very good draw. Did find another Nowhere to Run. Probably want to land as well. And Torture Tower. A little bit short of taking out Kaito. Can deal 3 to it. Or we can torch the Scavenger. And then for now, maybe Seed of Hope. And Soul Guide Lantern doesn't seem needed in the matchup. So I'll take the land. Could also just keep digging with Bitter Union, of course. Maybe that's still better than playing the Roots when it doesn't do anything. Alright, found a talent and the Fear, so that's what we needed. And let's just deal with the Scavenger. So next turn, cast Talent, cast Insidious Roots, discard Fear, get it back. Character still drawing. If they have another Nightmare, I'll happily discard my Fear of Infinity. They did mill a Go for the Throat, which they could return with a leveled up talent. They decided not to, so they must have some other instance available. Alright, so step 1 has to be Artist's Talent here. Cast Roots. Discard Fear. And then we can Surveil. another Fears, excellent. Put that in the graveyard. Small chance I end up casting Fear of Infinity if the plant token survives. Anchorage could also be a threat, although something we can answer with nowhere to run. Momentum Breaker is going to get our token. So we're at 5. And Kaito's still drawing.
Now I know you're weak.
It's going to be Pixie. Can pick up Momentum Breaker. Are they casting it? They are not. Alright, so we can start with maybe a leveled up talent. Although it could be bad if they end up bouncing it later. So maybe for now it's just 2 mana, nowhere to run. Discard Fear. It looks like they might be bouncing the Insidious Roots after all. Okay. Still discarding the Fear. And then I don't have to get them back. Although I guess I'll just be discarding them with the Roots when I cast it. So maybe I'll get 1 back. Cast Roots. Discard Fear. Find another talent. Alright. So I just need to find another Insidious Roots now. But I should probably keep up nowhere to run to answer their Anchorage if they decide to activate it. Can also still target Kaito to shrink it down, since nowhere to run will ignore its hexproof. And I guess we already have one in play. Alright, so Momentum Breaker. That resolves, unless we want to sack the Bitter Triumph for haste and make a mana. Doesn't seem necessary. And then they're just gonna Pixie, pick up Momentum Breaker. Sure. And Sheltered by Ghosts. Alright, that's interesting. So, what could they be targeting? Maybe my token. Either way, I'm probably going to want to know where to run, so may as well do it now. And make another plant. And wow, our opponent scoops it up. So next turn, what's our plan? We can cast another Artist's Talent. Question is whether we want to level this up first. Might be worth it, because then I can cast Talent for 1 mana. Trigger Talent, of course, discarding Fear of Infinity. Cast another 1 mana Talent. Trigger 2 of them. Keep discarding Fear of Infinity, and can even Bitter Triumph afterwards. We'll have some extra mana to work with. So pretty sure we can just keep comboing, and especially if we find a second Insidious Roots, just completely go off and maybe even win the game, thanks to the haste from Bitter Triumph. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play with a hand that just needs a discard outlet for Fear of Infinity. So we're just an Artist's Talent away from comboing off. I'll try it. So we would not be able to cast a turn 2 Roots at the moment. Yeah, I guess I'll play this one then. Alright, now I can Surveil. And that's what we need. Bloodghast, alright, sweet. Haven't seen that one in a while. Start with a Talent. And then next turn I can cast a Roots, discard Fear. A Roots enters, return Fear, make a plant. Our opponent also on a discard deck, slightly different variety. Alright, I guess that's still the play here. Could also just level up the talent, since I don't expect any enchantment removal. And then next turn I can Roots and Grim Search, and maybe cast other spells, sure. Because yeah, just casting the Roots here would leave 2 mana on the table. I guess I don't have double black actually, so I wouldn't necessarily be able to Roots plus Grim Search, although we do get some redraws. This one enters tapped. Alright, I'll start with a Roots still. Find a Reunion. Can cast this one. Discard Fear. Opponent's gonna take out the plant. Sure. And another Insidious Roots is pretty exciting. And then just play our Black Source tapped. Could also give the plant haste, which will fix for our black. So then, let's see, give this haste. I guess if I play Mountain, activate Bitter Union, I can cast another Insidious Roots. You know what? That might actually be worth it. Because we have another Fear to discard. So then we get to make a bunch more plants. Next turn we'll have plenty of black mana with the plants, tapping for black as well. So yeah, this should work out. Possible they're just casting a sweeper here. At least we don't have to worry about cover up exiling the Fear, since they don't have enough mana in graveyards to collect evidence. And that's also where Soul Guide Lantern can be useful, to keep the opponent's graveyard small so they can't collect evidence. Alright, so how do we want to proceed? Maybe cast the Dredger's Insight. But I would be surprised if we don't win the game this turn. Finding another haste enabler could be useful, but if our opponent has seen enough, these plants will do it. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a decent hand. Got 2 of our 3 combo pieces, just missing the Insidious Roots. And we've got removal and card draw. Starting with Mortuary's fine. Bitter Union I could accept, as it also sets up the Grim Search. Facing black and green, so maybe a mid-range deck. A self-mill deck. Alright. So don't expect a ton of relevant interaction, which is good news. So I'm okay playing the talents right now. And then next turn tap land, Reunion, discard Fear. This is probably the version with Up the Beanstalk. Overlord's one of their better plays. They did mill quite a few creatures, so they can discount some of their curve toppers. Alright, so go with a Reunion, discard Fear, get it back. And then we can discard it a second time. It's a pretty nice card draw engine. And we found the Roots. Okay. So everything is in place. Torch the Tower, I guess, could still be serviceable. Exiling the Vermin, triggering Talent. So our opponent can present some very large creatures, but they can't really get past an army of plants. Souls of the Lost, pretty big, and a Molt Tender. So cast Insidious Roots. And discard maybe a tap land. Although I might actually play the tap land here, or I can cast another talent, which might be more exciting. Get back Fear. Trigger Roots. Cast talent, discard Fear. Get back Fear. So now we would love to find a second copy of Fear of Infinity, so we get the most out of our Artist's Talent. So this turn we're probably going to take a hit. There's the Beanstalk. And maybe a Quack Feast taking out a plant. Another Overlord instead also draws up the Beanstalk. Okay, so their graveyard's probably going to be full enough where next turn they can unload a bunch of these Gravestalkers and other expensive creatures, which will also draw up the Beanstalk. But yeah, slow card advantage can be great, but against combo it's not quite what you need. And a Soul Guide Lantern's also pretty effective. There's still the one creature that counts cards in exile, so it doesn't stop that one, but let's see. Can maybe level up a talent? Is that a worthwhile investment? Lets me play another talent and then a 0-mana Lantern. Yeah, I think it might be okay. Keep digging. Cast Lantern. Another talent. So we're very quickly going through the deck now. Exile a creature. And sure, I'll cast another one. So we should find another Fear of Infinity at some point here. Otherwise, I can just exile their graveyard for now and take it from there. Maybe cast a Grim Search. Sure. So I'll probably want to do this now before they get to cast creatures on the cheap. And then we'll pass with Grim Search available, which will find us additional Fears of Infinity, hopefully. Could also deal with the souls while it's small. And yeah, there's the Husk Burster, which counts cards in exile. So we knew about that one. And the Scout, that's acceptable. I personally didn't play Scout in my build, so this is probably closer to the Pro Tour version. Overlord triggers, cast my Grim Search. With a bargain, can sack a plant, could also sack a talent at this point. Probably want to keep the Reunion. So we get to see 8 cards to hopefully find at least another Fear. Do want to keep some enchantments to get them back. Another Roots also helps. Insight is also fine at this point. Although I might prefer the Grim Search. I guess a life gain could be useful too. Alright, there we go. And then another Lantern or Bitter Union. And maybe Insight. So let's see if we can fully combo off here. So start with another Roots. Don't want tap lands. There we go. Alright, we should get there now. 23 cards remain. Getting back triple fear. Plenty more enchantments to be cast. And our opponent scoops it up. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We have our Fear of Infinity. Just need a discard outlet, ideally our talents, and then our roots. But seems functional for now. Surveil. Don't know for a fact that we don't need Torch, but I'm gonna be picky. Black-white Scavenger, so Pixie. And we found the talent, that's excellent. So, start there. So now we're just missing the roots. Nowhere to Run also sets up our Grim Search and Hopeless Nightmare. Could actually work to our advantage. Alright, so I could level up Talent, play 0 mana Lantern. Probably safer to just cast Nowhere to Run. And then discard. Could be the Lantern. Although it is a way to enable Grim Search next turn. So maybe a land is fine. Get our Fear of Infinity back. And then I can still cast a Lantern, discarding the Fear. And exile your Scavenger. Okay. So, gotta keep looking for Insidious Roots. Opponent makes me discard again. Alright, so it's probably Grim Search, and then can go for Tapped Theater. Maybe start here. Another Fear, happy to discard. And then we'll pass. Bonus looking to bounce our Artist's Talent. Alright, so can Grim Search in response. Discard my land. And then I'll take another Talent and another Grim Search, I guess. Even though the Insight could gain me a lot of life with the Fear of Infinity, so maybe that's still worth it, even though it cannot find Insidious Roots. It is close. Yeah, maybe it is just Talent plus Grim Search. Although I'm gonna lose a decent amount of life too when they replay the Nightmare. So I think I go Insight, and then maybe Grim Search over another Talent. Although double Talent would be nice with double Fear of Infinity. Yeah, you know what. So we've got some rebuilding to do, but at least we're not taking damage from creatures. Glad I didn't spend mana leveling up the Talent at least. So for now, ditch the Reunion. And Pixie is going to make me discard again. That's annoying. Yeah, I wish we had those Fear of Infinities in hand right now. So we're at 8 all of a sudden. So cast Talents. Trigger Fear. Can Insight. And I probably want to leave Theater available so we can cast any of our 1 mana removal spells. Discard Fear. And get it back. Mill the Roots, which is too bad, but also milled another Fear, so that helps. And then Lantern we can sacrifice end of turn. exiling this town in big enough can be relevant if they find the talent. So for now, take 2. They might have a Kaito. Just 2 damage. Looks like a Fear of Isolation picking up the Nightmare. Right, opponent's gonna just pass. I'll draw my card. And a torch is certainly going to be helpful, so it's nowhere to run. Alright, do I consider leveling up talent now? I don't think so. So we'll just start with Torch the Tower, discard Fear. Doesn't get it back, but then we can keep Nowhere to Run as an answer to the Anchorage potentially. Possible they have another this town in big enough in hands and they want to just protect their stuff. And a Bitter Reunion's not bad either. Alright, so they are bouncing Pixie and Talent. So I can respond with Nowhere to Run. Discarding Fear. And then get back triple Fear, gain 3 life. Just missing the roots to make the plant tokens now. But we should find one soon. Still 3 left in the deck. Bounce my talents. And I'll recast it. So next turn we're probably gonna level up. As our opponent smacks us for 2. Sacking the map to explore. And another Nightmare they decide to keep on top. Alright, so level up talent. Probably playing the mountain. Want to keep black and green for roots potentially. So I guess it doesn't matter too much here. And then cast another talent. Discard Fear. Find a torch. Anchorage does have 4 toughness now. Cast Reunion. Discard Double Fear. And there's our Insidious Roots finally. So I probably only get 1 Fear back. So I can discard 2 here. Although I guess never mind with Bitter Union. We still have to discard and draw, but I guess we drew another Fear after all. Alright. Discard Double Fear, get 4 of them back. Have to do it one at a time, I keep forgetting. Alright, and then we get the glorious plant tokens. While gaining life. Alright, and that'll do it. Awesome. So we got to see this Junt Infinity deck in action. And yeah, this deck went through quite a few iterations, but I'm happy that I stuck to it, since the end result seems pretty decent. Rowan's Grim Surge, not the most intuitive card to include in the deck, but it seems to tie everything together quite nicely. And then, yeah, we've got a pretty solid plan to close out the game once we assemble all the pieces. Decent amount of interaction for aggro. Still going to be somewhat weak to more controlling decks, especially the ones running Temporary Lockdown, since that can exile all our stuff and we don't have any real answers to it. Could be addressed by maybe playing cards like Haywire Might or other removal spells that can hit enchantments, but we also don't want to dilute our main game plan too much. At least Soul Guide Lantern still has a dual purpose. It can stop opposing graveyard combo decks, but it can also be cycled or sacrificed to bargain, so it doesn't feel like it's shoehorned in too much. But yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.